Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Monday to get the week going right, to talk all things NXT WarGames and more. It's our very good friend, Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Thanks. If it's Monday, it must be Mikey, right?
Oh, Monday Mikey.
Monday, Mikey, I'm here. I'm confused. There's like this chat, Sherrod Jones in the chat. What's up, everybody? Checking from the University of North Carolina. Tar Heels suck.
Wow.
Get that mess out of our chat room. We don't want you here.
So much
I'm just kidding,
negativity to start the week. Jesus, be more like Aki. Happy Monday.
There we go.
Aki, yes. You know, Samantha here pointing out babyface Hausman. Yeah, I have shaved for those that can't see. Michael's still full on Bryan Danielson right now.
I mean, they just like you so much. I don't even have to try, and I'm the heel, right? That's how this rivalry works.
I shaved because I interviewed Raquel Gonzalez on Friday, and we don't get a lot of WWE interviews, and I wanted to make sure that we were presented professionally, because that's what I am. Okay, I am
a professional.
I am a professional. So I shaved and I put on a collared shirt, and it was a great conversation. And we aired it on Friday's Daily when we had guest co-host Issa on, who's, by the way, back here in the house. Good afternoon, everybody. So thank you, Issa,
Thanks for joining us, Issa.
In the comment section. And hey, I pulled up several comments here. If you want to be a part of the show, we record it live in video form Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern, about a half hour long over on Wrestling Inc.'s YouTube, Twitch, all the social channels. Jump in the comment section. We'll put your comments up on the show, just like we've already started doing here today. Later on in the show, after the news segment, for everybody, we're going to dive in the mailbag. We're going to look at who you thought from the new class of NXT 2.0 had the best night at WarGames, which we'll talk about here just a little bit as well. But before we get to the news and the mailbag, a couple little items. First of all, send our best to Charlotte and Andrade, who, according to bodyslam.net, they've broken up. So another wrestling power couple bites the dust, Michael.
Was there a Raj tweet on this? Can we get Raj in the room? I thought he said that maybe he had not heard that. Maybe
he had not. I don't know. I mean, he unfollowed her on social media, and I think this is the story of the moment. So you're saying maybe didn't happen? Could have told me. You saw the run sheet. Here, I'll look it up.
Oh man, I don't know. It was a tweet, so who knows?
I trust Cassidy over a Body Slam. He's usually pretty good on this. So
he said, I try not to post personal stuff, but the word I've gotten is that Charlotte Flair and Andrade are still very much together. That was 22 hours ago. Raj.
So that was from Raj. Okay, we got a lot of stories here within the last 22 hours that are saying that. Okay, so Raj disputing it. All right, well, hey.
Fake news. What can I say?
Could have appreciated the heads up, Michael, before we went live here. Maybe you look like a fool.
Listen, Raj is one man. I trust Cassidy. I trust the other sources. I trust the unfollowing on social media. The real question is, where is Raj to defend his point of view in all of this? That's the real question.
Now, look, there's a lot of people here in the last 24 saying they have. So, you know what? It's a bad way to start the week. I'm going to look into it myself. I'm going to get.
I'm sorry, Nick. I'm throwing this show for a loop 5 minutes in.
I see Daniel saying Charlotte and Andrade is more tabloid stuff, not relevant to wrestling type. That's why I do it before the news block, Daniel. This is just, these are buzzy things that deserve to be acknowledged, and in some cases, sad things we want to get out of the way. Like this right here. Also want to send our best out to Elijah Burke. PW Insider saying suffered a concussion at the end of NWA Hard Times 2. Got thrown into some steel steps, down for the count, had to bring an ambulance in. Very scary situation. Luckily, he's tweeted out since then that everything seems to be better for him and he's on the mend. But definitely want to start the show sending our best to Elijah Burke as well.
Sorry to hear that. I love Elijah Burke. Super great talent. Just always had an incredible look, I felt like, and a great personality. So I'm hoping for a speedy recovery. And when it comes to the tabloid stuff, isn't pro wrestling journalism, the news sheet, the dirt sheet, all that is kind of based on tabloid rumors. Who doesn't like who's with who in the back? How are they politicking, right? Come on, y'all.
I like to think my job is to find the answers to the questions wrestling fans have, whether or not those are questions about contracts and injuries, or, hey, are these two people still an item? Which comes up sometimes. Not my favorite thing to find out or run news about, but hey, obviously a lot of interest around that stuff. And on that note, we're going to start off with here some news you can use, news that'll leave a bruise. And this one is bruising. Before we get to War Games, this is a very personal story. We don't really know the whole details around it. More questions than answers, I think, would be the nice way to say it. So, PW Insider reported first that Jeff Hardy missed last night's WWE live event from the American Bank Center in Corpus Christi, and word going around is that he was sent home from the road. Now, Hardy worked Saturday's live event in Edinburgh, Texas, teaming with King Xavier Woods and Drew McIntyre against Universal Champion Roman Reigns and SmackDown Tag Champions, the Usos, the main event. After spending most of the match in the ring, getting worked over by the Bloodline, and apparently becoming more sluggish as the match went on, Hardy made a hot tag to McIntyre, but then immediately disappeared into the crowd. Hardy reportedly went into the crowd at that point, followed by security. Now, I want to encourage everybody to go check out the video of this. It's on the site right now because it is bizarre, to say the least. So security, visibly caught off guard, have to leap over this guardrail to keep up with Jeff. He never goes back to the ring, didn't participate in the post-match celebration with Woods and McIntyre. There's also video of that up on the site, and you can see that McIntyre, more noticeably than Woods, is like, "Where's Jeff?" And he does this kind of like crazy person motion with his fingers to his head, right? So for what it's worth, a fan at the Edinburgh live event noted that Hardy stopped to greet just about every fan at ringside and on the entranceway as he made his way to the ring before the match. And there's video of that as well, with Jeff acting relatively normal. Now, for what it's worth as well, Hardy took to Instagram, posted a selfie of a video this over a day ago at this point. No caption of the post, which he usually does include. The brief clip doesn't have any sound, and it's him with like the face paint makeup, and like he's opening his eyes, so it goes from painted eye to real eye. He's kind of going back and forth doing that. So I've had to watch a lot of uncomfortable Jeff Hardy videos this morning to catch up on this story. Michael, what are your takeaways here before I give kind of my thoughts on this?
It's a weird video. You're right, Nick. And you watch this video and you kind of like, at first you're like, oh, things look normal, but then it does go to a place that pro wrestling videos, like just the whole bizarre going to the crowd, all that stuff is like, something's not right with it. It's not what we've seen from Jeff Hardy in the past, where Jeff Hardy is, I think, flat out inebriated in the ring. I think the infamous TNA pay-per-view where him and Singh had that moment, right? It was not that, but something's still not right. And you know, him being sent home tells a story that something didn't play out the right way. For me, it's all about the person behind the wrestling persona. It's about Jeff Hardy, the man, and what does he need to do? If this is, in fact, some kind of, he's, you know, using a substance of some kind before a match, endangering his fellow wrestlers and fellow workers, what do we need to do to get him the support that he needs to get him back to a place of sobriety, if that's the case, or whatever it is? You know, it's only 2 years ago that he was flagged here in North Carolina for driving under the influence. It was not too long before that where there was, I think, another public, at a beach, there was a public drunken incident. And so it's kind of been, you know, the stories of Jeff Hardy go back for years, and it's always about how do we support him. It seems like he's been on a pretty good path, but sobriety is never 100% for people that are challenged with this.
Yeah, and Chaz Shaw here saying earlier on Twitch, Matt Hardy said he talked to Jeff, said he was okay. I haven't seen that, Chaz. If you want to shoot me that at newstips@wrestlinginc.com, that link, I would love that. We can get some coverage of that if that happened here after the show. But, yeah, I don't want to jump to conclusions. Obviously, a lot of people want to, you know, and look, Jeff has his own history that when he gets into a situation like this is going to lead people to believe, based off his past actions, maybe something like that is wrong. You know, I've been there was a great NPR podcast recently about concussions and CTE. It was a focus on Dr. Amen, who actually I believe Bryan Danielson has referenced, at least the book that Amen wrote, and it's whole kind of, it's not a great feel good story by any stretch. But like, how we really don't know enough quite yet about, you know, the effects of this. And when I watched Jeff act like that, I also thought maybe he was somebody that had gotten his bell rung and just lost, you know, an idea of where he was, and maybe instinctually just felt the need to get out, right, and move away. and didn't have the wherewithal to think there's a ramp. Maybe he just wanted to be away from that area, and that's where he went. So maybe it's that, maybe it's, something else, and maybe it's something that's completely off. Samantha's saying, wonder if it's some mental health issue. Maybe if there's so many things it could be, we don't really know. But what we do know is what we saw, and what we saw, very weird, very odd, very odd.
Well, I think the situation is concussions and all those things could explain it. Unfortunately, with Jeff Hardy's past and with his past of doing this, I mean, listen, he's one of the most charismatic wrestlers in WWE's history as far as connecting with the fans, having that support. But we've seen his issues crop up in 2009 with the championship and TNA and so on and so forth, that it makes you assume if something's off. Unfortunately, our first assumption is always that it is, unfortunately, Jeff Hardy kind of falling off the wagon. I think the other real awkward thing we have to call out here is he's in a match with the New Day, and we know what happened not too long ago with a driving under the influence that happened there. We can go back and talk about how WWE used Jeff Hardy's sobriety for storyline about a year and a half ago. And you look back at those things and them possibly sending him off the road, if that is true. And for me, number one, again, get Jeff the support he needs if that is the case. But number two, WWE's inconsistency with a very real issue like this is a major red flag, especially if Jeff Hardy has in fact kind of regressed to old ways.
Yeah, a lot to unpack here. So honestly, just want to send our best out to Jeff. I mean, we don't really know how this is creatively going to affect things. I did cross my mind, of course, that Jeff has really been, it seemed like they were giving him more of a chance recently. He's been in more positions of like, oh man, I really would love to see him, that Roman match. I'll tell you, somebody who reads everything every day, they're having him do a lot of press right now too. They're letting him go out there and be a face. Sure. It's a lot of pressure when you get put back in a situation where they're having you talk every day. You get more opportunities, from where he's been kind of, which is just kind of fledgling. So, just something else to take into consideration, sure. I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Moving past Jeff Hardy here. And we, again, sending our best out to Jeff and all the family. Let's talk about WarGames. WarGames ended last night with Team NXT 2.0 defeating NXT OGs in WarGames. After the match, Johnny Gargano took the stick, kind of addressed all the elephants in the room about his contract without actually saying it, and then said he's going to tell all this Tuesday night. What'd you think of the main event? What'd you think of what Gargano stirred up here after the show is over?
If that's Gargano's swan song, if that's him and Ciampa's kind of final story in NXT that they're going to tell right now, I think it was a great way to go out. And of course, doing business the right way, they're going to put over the young guns with NXT 2.0, and WWE is going to kind of push forward with that. But I think we look at Gargano's career in NXT, we look at his partnership, his rivalry with Ciampa, and having those two guys back there last night in that position, defending the black and gold, right? I think was a really cool story to tell as we transition away from one of the greatest promotions of all time, which is NXT 1.0. But, the story's been, hey, listen, one more week. He signed a 1 week extension. We're going to keep him around, and he's probably gone. All right. We're all assuming that means he's going to go on. If he's going to have a tell-all on Tuesday nights, NXT 2.0, there's no way, I can't imagine that WWE would give him a microphone and let him do that if he signed, a 3-day extension, and then he's going to show up at AEW Wednesday night. There's no way. There's no way. He's got to have signed an extension.
I think we get an emotional send-off from Gargano, maybe interrupted by like a Joe Gacy, who is coming off the loss, spoiler, to Roderick Strong, where he was going for the Cruiserweight title. I haven't been sold on Gacy for a variety of reasons, but you know what? I thought he had a really good match with Roderick Strong last night. I just like him in that space, and part of me does feel more, I guess, like upset. I'm upset. Sometimes I'm impressed. It's a roller coaster when I watch Joe Gacy do anything.
Let me clarify. You think Gargano's going to get an emotional send-off, kind of do the job for Gacy or whatever, and then he
go
is
out there, wave his little hat, thank you so much. It's been the honor of a lifetime. I'm going to go home, be a dad. There's no more elite position in the world than being a dad. Am I right, guys? Something wink and a nod like that. Cue the Charles Manson, surfer rock, and out he comes with Harlan to murder this man. If I had to book it, I would think something like that.
But you still think Gargano's moving on?
Oh yeah, I don't. I mean,
Okay.
you think he might be resigning here? You think
I
this is a way
just,
to
I mean, I
recommit?
said there's no way. I could be wrong. We're going to prove this out this week, but I would be surprised if WWE would let him go out there and have that emotional send off, even if they, get him beat up by Joe Gacy. That let him go out on Tuesday night because his contract is up, and so therefore he would be free the very next night to show up on AEW TV. And I have to imagine Vince would think like, it's a smudge on my face or whatever, right?
It's not uncommon for them to do this stuff. I feel like Dean Ambrose got like some kind of promo. I think he did. He was at live. I think they did a house event was the last thing he did. He cut some promo, but it's it's Carney 101.
Okay.
People are going to pay to watch. Give them what they want, even if it's not exactly what they want. I think. Yeah, and Spear Cross, you're saying his contract runs out Friday, not Tuesday. Yeah,
Okay,
totally. He's done at the end of the week, but this is the last time he's going to be able to be on TV tomorrow night. And I think he's on his way. I think him and Kyle O'Reilly, who did not become tag champions with Van Wagner, and very close to what I predicted for these two, only the other way around. It was Van Wagner who turned on Kyle O'Reilly, and we'll get a cage match with these two, and that'll be on Tuesday night. But I think O'Reilly, Gargano, both these things set up departures for me. I think.
I thought so. If it's a contract extension until Friday night, I'm more convinced by it. I think both of these gentlemen are on their way out. There's not much for them to do anymore, right? As of Sunday night in the pay-per-view, they kind of did what they were there to do. Set up NXT 2.0, set up the young stars and move on. Ciampa's still the champion. I think Ciampa could have a longer shelf life in NXT, transitioning to maybe a trainer role of some kind. But yeah, at the end of the day, though, we look at Ciampa, we look at Kyle O'Reilly, but especially we look at Johnny Gargano. NXT 1.0, something super special, and it is an emotional time to be an NXT fan and kind of know this is it. That brand has kind of been put to rest. God bless these talents for giving us what they've given us the last number of years.
See, I really want Ciampa to have like 1 or 2 years on the main roster before he hangs it up, just because like I want to see Ciampa Orton. I want to see Ciampa AJ. I want to see Ciampa who else would be fun right now that I'm really enjoying? Big E, right?
Sure.
Like Ciampa Reigns, Ciampa Les. Like I want to see those matches. The only way to do it is he's got to cross the line. And even if it's just for a year or two where he goes out there and has some bangers with Sheamus and Cesaro, fine. I'm okay with that. Give me my victory tour for Tommaso Ciampa.
Did you say Ciampa should cross the line as in Impact Wrestling TNA? Let's bring it back.
No. Wrong line.
Who has meant more? This is not your question of the day, and I just want to throw it out there. Who has meant more to NXT in the last 5 years than Johnny Gargano or Tommaso Ciampa?
Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole.
Adam Cole was great. He topped the mountain there, but Gargano and Ciampa have carried that brand so many times. I think we're kind of, I'm splitting hairs here. Love who you love, right? Adam Cole's been amazing as well. But I love Johnny Gargano, what he's given to that brand and how much him and Ciampa have done for that. So it's a sad
day. Real quick before we got 2 items here from WarGames. Also, I want to talk about the women's WarGames match. Very impressive outing here from all 8 women. I called it Team Cora Jade defeating Team Dakota Kai Toxic Attraction because they went out of their way to really make Cora Jade impressive last night. She's part of our poll who had the best night last night at WarGames. Not that I'm surprised because I like Cora and all that, though she did stutter step on that skateboard entrance and it was not good. But I the whole one arm thing, fighting off with the kendo stick, the swanton, I thought looked really good. I thought this was they made some people last night. They definitely made some people last night.
NXT 1.0, especially a few years ago, very much defined by the women's division and by what they did with Sasha Banks, with Bayley, with Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. I think there's been some skepticism, and we said for a while, what are they going to do with this as they kind of siphon off talent to the main roster? They're saying and establishing the women's division is going to be a big part of NXT 2.0 moving forward, and I'm happy to see them deliver that with the WarGames match last night because a lot of people it looked really good across the board with all the talent they used interchangeably there.
And I like that the women's match had like a mix of old and new, and that the men's match was decidedly old versus new because they just felt different. Like I feel like if the women had done the exact same thing as the men, it would have been a little repetitive. I like that those stories were very, very different stories. And man, all the new guys should be paying the NXT 1.0 OGs bonuses, because D'Angelo, Braun, Grace, I mean, these guys all looked great last night, I thought,
Sure.
in that cell.
And this is it. Like, I have my own criticisms with NXT 2.0 and what they've done, but that being said, I think NXT 2.0 has been punching above its weight class, and I think it is that mix of talent and the way they've utilized. I think about Mandy Rose, right, and where she was in the main roster, kind of being used with Otis, and that was a storyline they wanted to tell, and that's fine. But her on NXT 2.0 has been money, especially for the talents that she's working with, both on her team and across the ring from her. I think it's elevating everybody's game just to have that main roster rub. And that's what this brand should be, kind of that right transition. And I like the fact that it's sometimes one-on-one against, and sometimes we're going to have a faction where we blend it. And it's a great way to do that.
Well, last night in a lot of ways felt like the end of an era, right? With NXT 2.0 picking up that dominant victory, obviously setting up Braun Breaker versus Ciampa here for whatever their New Year's Evil special, I'm going to guess that'll go down at. But Beth Phoenix also had her last NXT commentary appearance last night. Very emotional. PW Insider saying good chance she's going to wind up with the Miz and Edge and and Maurice over on Raw. Which makes a lot of sense. But she's given a lot, definitely added something to the show last night, especially from the get. Like, it made the night feel more important, for sure.
That's what I'm most disappointed about, losing her on that. And we've had a ton of great women's announcers in recent years, so I don't want to like single out anybody, but that veteran women wrestling announcer being at the desk has felt really special for NXT. And Wade Barrett has given that credibility as well, don't get me wrong, but there's something about the way Beth Phoenix has called these matches and her insight that's just made NXT feel very different and very elevated from the announce table in her time there. So people, she's been a due to NXT. I've said for a while, a week, I guess, for a while, she's going to end up on Raw. We're going to have a mixed tag match. That's going to be great, especially with Maurice back. But yeah, Beth Phoenix done great work there, and I'm glad to see them have given her the runway they've given her in NXT.
Hey, before we wrap with NXT talk, Daniel Price saying 33 and a third chance Braun beats Ciampa next time. Another 33 and a third chance Scott Steiner appears, and the numbers don't lie. All right, on to SmackDown. I unfortunately did not get my wish on SmackDown, which was to see Brock Lesnar help Sami Zayn to defeat Roman Reigns and create a wrinkle on the way to day one. No, Brock Lesnar bullied Sami Zayn, bullied this man into having his match with Roman Reigns that night, then bludgeons him about with German suplexes, leaving a battered, not 100% Sami Zayn to be defeated by Roman Reigns. And now we're going to get Brock versus Reigns at day one. The Observer saying this is going to be a multi-match series between the two, maybe Rumble matches, definitely WrestleMania. We're on the road to Lesnar Reigns through April. Thoughts on all of this? How this all went?
Give a shout out to Daniel Price in the chat room here. Be a star, Brock. Be a star. Yeah, quit bullying people, dude. Brock was entertaining Friday night. And I was one of the first ones to say, I don't know that I want a Brock Lesnar babyface run. Does it make sense? He's a monster. He's a beast. How do you work this in there? And he had me cracking up. The whole saying, unfortunately it's at the expense of Sami Zayn, who is just such a great talent and doing great work right now. But he comes out and says, do I know you? Are you a fan? Are you a fan? It was a beautiful interaction. And then backstage, and kudos to Sami Zayn for the way that he played off of Brock and his reactions to Brock, right? Yeah. No better role for that than Sami. But Brock's delivery of just kind of putting him in the corner and saying, oh, you're going to accept the match, right? You're going to wrestle tonight, right? And kind of forcing Sami to do it was just a great back and forth. And wrestling needs, I love AEW, right? I love a lot of things tonight, apparently, but I love AEW. Sure. And I think they do a great job of carrying stories over week. The one thing WWE does differently, and sometimes too much, but I think effectively in times, which is let's tell a story of the night. We're going to open our show kicking off the story. We're going to thread it throughout segments throughout the night, and we're going to conclude with the next chapter. That's what Friday night was. It was a story of Sami Zayn's title on the road to Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. You got a lot of time to fill. It's okay to do stories like this every once in a while for the viewers.
Dude, they were so good. I want more Sami Zayn and Brock Lesnar so much. I really, really loved their chemistry together. And I hope, honestly, Sami Zayn sticks around right? Like you're gonna have to do stuff to keep it interesting here if you're gonna go another 4 months with Brock and Roman, having Sami maybe get involved at day one, or maybe one day he screws over Brock, maybe one day he screws over Roman, maybe Roman makes a deal with him one week and Sami gets to be bloodline for a night before getting jumped out, like whatever. I just like Sami Zayn in that mix, and the fact we know that we're gonna get Reigns Lesnar at WrestleMania, and I don't want to go too much further on this topic, but I feel like it sets up Roman losing at day one, maybe winning the Rumble, and going into defeat Brock at WrestleMania. And maybe that's when like The Rock comes out, confrontation, maybe the night after, something like that. I don't know. But that's the best way I can think to kind of stretch out 4 months of booking for these two.
Yeah, Roman has got to lose, right? You can't have Brock just chasing for 4 months without burning the audience out on it, I would assume.
Right.
But if it's disputed finish, if you get Sami Zayn involved or somebody else or Paul Heyman turns or whatever could happen at day one, that's going to allow Roman to have a full firm on, I deserve to still be champion and you screwed me of that. Because Roman's shtick is that he is dominant in everything that he does, right? So there's got to be some controversy.
You know who gets Brock's, his first crack of the apple when Brock gets that Universal title, right?
Sami Zayn.
Oh, it's going to be Sami Zayn, and it's going to be a big deal. We're going to get big match Sami going up against Brock.
Wow.
All right, I'll do a run of women's updates here. We have Xia Li debuting on SmackDown this coming Friday. Taya Valkyrie, she is a free agent, but she's now back at AAA. Showed up at Triple Mania. Proceeded to call out AAA's Reina de Reinas champion Deonna Purrazzo and the former NXT superstar 4 Horsewoman Marina Shafir. She's in AEW. The former NXT superstar worked Friday's AEW Dark tapings from Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, and went up against Chris Statlander. Any thoughts on these updates about the women?
It's awesome. I think all those are really smart moves. Taya Valkyrie, kind of this, what's going to happen with John Morrison? I think that's a cool little, what could happen there. We'll never know until it happens, I guess. But Xia Li, SmackDown, they are building this up to be a big deal, a very interesting video package on Friday night, which I thought was kind of cool in its own way. So I really hope, I hope to capitalize the right way with Xia Li in this protector gimmick. So,
Yeah. And with Marina Shafir and AEW, I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole, strap a tinfoil, hat to my head, but Ronda Rousey doesn't seem thrilled with WWE at the moment. Like, very flippant, I'd say would be a great way to describe her feelings towards WWE. Ask the lawyers, I think is what the last comment she had about her WWE status. If her friends go to the new fun, cool place where there's America Top Team and Juno dos Santos and maybe a better respect for UFC in her mind, Ronda Rousey leaping to AEW in 2022 would certainly be a very interesting story.
Hadn't thought about that. That isn't, it could happen, right? It could happen, especially a more sport combat based type promotion as AEW is.
Yeah. All right. And lastly here, before we get to the mailbag, on Twitter this past Friday, Matt Hardy teased the following: I plan on gearing more towards Matt Hardy going forward. It seems the AEW audience appreciates real, so I'm going to focus on being more authentic. And he got into it with some fan. He was very upset, called him a nasty word. I mean, it's not big money Matt. It's we're getting to just, the Mick Foley to the mankind here with Matt Hardy. I don't know. Maybe we won't like. Maybe we won't like real Matt Hardy. I'm not sure.
Maybe he's still a heel. Maybe he's still hamming it up in that. Big Money Matt's been fun, right? I mean, before that, Broken Matt Hardy was fun. Matt Hardy is great at reinventing himself in his own way. We talk a lot about Chris Jericho's ability to do that. Matt Hardy is a creative dude as well. And so I think even if we get the real Matt Hardy, it's still going to be skewed one way or the other. But, maybe this is just part of still the gimmick that he's selling to us. And I'm just curious, as always with Matt Hardy, to see where this goes because the dude's so smart.
All right, Michael. Well, thank you for joining me at the top of the show to talk all the news of the day. Thank you to everybody for joining in the comments section. It is now time for the mailbag at Wink Daily, WINC Daily. That's the account to follow. If you want to vote in the daily polls, today's poll question, very straightforward. Which NXT 2.0 superstar had the best night at WarGames? Was it Braun Breaker, Cora Jade, Joe Gacy, or somebody else? About 200 votes here. 47.6% Braun Breaker, 43.9% Cora Jade, Only 3.2 for Joe Gacy and 5.3 for somebody else. The somebody else, by the way, Alex Sauer grabs Fabian Eichner, and it's not at all that close. Why the hell is Gacy nominated? He didn't even win his match, but I feel Joe Gacy won in defeat. That's why I added, it's not about wins and losses. It's about the emotional wins and losses. I thought that was the best he'd looked, honestly.
It is. I just still struggle with that character. I think the announce team is doing what they can to kind of cover for it, but it feels a little bit misplaced at times, and I'll leave it at that. But I look at your poll here. Yeah, he didn't even win his match, but also you don't wins and losses, or it's pro wrestling, right? It's not even AEW pro wrestling. So Braun Breaker winning the main event, being put in that spotlight, being built up for weeks and weeks. It felt like the next evolution for him, and they have big plans for Breaker. So I think he takes this, but your opinion on Cora Jade, what you explained to me earlier in the show, dude, great performance there as well.
Yeah, and she delivered in the poll, right? So obviously what I saw, a lot of other people saw as well. So, hey, I'm just going to say, guess what? Both winners. It's nice that we have women and men succeeding in NXT once again. All right. With that, we're going to wrap up the show. Tomorrow, come on back. I'm going to be joined by Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Polio Del Mar. EJ is out on a gig, and then Paul can't do Thursday, and I have an invite out to somebody else. So just come back. Me and Paul will be here tomorrow, and we got a big mystery guest that I have planned for tomorrow. I'm recording it in the afternoon. We're going to flip it and put it out, shortly after. I think you guys are going to really dig this one. And of course, the Wrestling Inc. Wrestling Daily is brought to you WrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials. And of course, at night after all the major shows like Tonight After Raw, you catch the Wrestling Inc. podcast right back here or on your favorite podcast platform. Michael, what do you want to put over here before we wrap it up today?
No, thanks everybody for joining us on a Monday. It's always fun. Although I think Monday afternoons, Nick, we should call it Monday nights or Monday evenings, because it is pitch black out my window as we record this today. So
I know.
We gotta start having you do happy hours on Fridays, right? Can we do a happy hour on a Monday or sometime?
I even stopped. I had a beer late on the Friday episode, but I'm so structured now. If I start drinking before 5 o'clock, I just feel weird.
I get it.
I feel wrong.
Yeah.
So, but whatever. Twist my arm. Me. I'm hard to get a beer to crack open in my hand. All right. I'm at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss.